The movie I chose for this week's review is from an erotic thriller pack here of 3 movies. I've already reviewed one movie on this pack, of course Snapdragon, starring Pamela Anderson. If you haven't seen it yet, feel free to check it out on this channel. The movie I chose for this week is 3, starring Billy Zane and Kelly Brook. A wealthy couple, Jack Ryan, played by Billy Zane, and his wife Jennifer, played by Kelly Brook, take a private cruise with friends. An accident causes a severe fire, and everyone is forced to abandon ship. Only 3 survive the disaster and make it to a nearby deserted island. Manuel, played by Juan Pablo de Pace, a staff member of the ship, and the married couple Kelly and Jack. As the 3 try to survive on the island, it becomes a quicksand into primal greed, lust, and jealousy. At the very beginning of the film, when everyone is boarding the ship, Manuel gets into a heated argument with a girl who he then slaps, and then the girl curses him in a foreign language. The film constantly cuts back to this girl performing a voodoo curse that's directed at Manuel. Survival Island didn't do too well upon release on theaters, and it was later re-released on DVD with the title 3. It has since gained a cult following, and that's mainly due to, of course, Kelly Brooks, which I'll get to. Billy Zane, I think, does a very good job in this movie, particularly with his physical transformation. At the beginning of the film, he's almost unrecognizable. He looks kind of like David Cross, like a writer or a nerdy businessman. Then in the middle of the film, we see him as this fish out of water. He slowly has to adapt to the land. His physicality dramatically changes. He grows more confident with the laws of the island. And then finally, towards the end of the film, he looks like Kurtz from Apocalypse Now, this primitive or rather savage native of the island, like a huge like hunter or predator. Slowly, it's jealousy, heartbreak, and pride that consumes Billy Zane's character. And he's presented at the beginning of the film like a villain, and I'm not quite sure if I did find him as a villain. Like, they did present him as a very powerful and wealthy man that all that means nothing on this deserted island, but he is forced to adapt. He has to learn how to hunt. He, does some MacGyver-like tactics, making a scuba diving mask so he can go under, or goggles rather, and he becomes ultimately a man who conquers his environment, and I have to really admire that. Manuel, the other person that's on the island, I'm not quite sure where this film is set in. It could be South America, off the coast of South America somewhere, or it could be Spain. At the beginning of the film, we see Manuel slap a girl, and then we constantly see him eyeing Jennifer in a lustful way, and he also says some really crude things to her. He's also responsible for the boat going up in flames, so I never really felt he was a hero or someone to root for. I think Juan Pablo de Pace does a great job with his performance, and there is always something going on behind his eyes, especially the way he looks at Jennifer. You feel his lust. And finally, Kelly Brook. Oh my gosh. I had no idea who Kelly Brook was prior to watching this movie. I thought she was just another pretty face. I didn't think her acting was that good, but I actually think she does a pretty good job towards the end of this movie, because she has to delicately balance the relationship between her jealous husband and the lustful Manuel. She's also one of the most sexiest girls I've ever seen on screen. I think she looks really amazing. She needs to be crafty just to survive on the island, and it's also really sad seeing her have to give up a piece of herself just for some food. I mean, what's she gonna do? She's a really pretty girl on a deserted island surrounded by 2 hungry, lustful beasts. And within the first 10 minutes, there is an erotic sex scene between Jennifer and Jack on the boat, and Manuel's listening in from the other room. And on the island, of course, weren't able to bring any clothes with them. Jennifer is left to parade pretty much 90% of this film with just a skimpy bathing suit, and the lust for Jennifer consumes Manuel. And in a very controversial scene, while Jennifer's husband is fishing for food, Manuel grabs her, wrestles her to the ground and starts making love to her. Now, she does kiss him back, so it does seem consensual, but I don't know, that scene had an awkward, rapey vibe to me. Like, the sexual tension is built up really well. It feels so primal and animalistic, yet it's set in a way that evokes the famous scene in From Here to Eternity, where they're both kissing on the beach. It is an extremely effective erotic scene, mainly because of how the film builds up to that moment. And you, of course, see Kelly Brook nude in this scene. Billy Zane formed a relationship with Kelly Brook during the making of this movie, and the couple tried unsuccessfully to sue the company making the film and try to get rid of all the nude scenes that were in it. So they weren't successful, and of course the film exists to this day with those nude sex scenes intact. The film culminates in a big showdown between Billy Zane and Manuel, which I won't spoil. They say the oldest story ever told is between a girl and two guys, and Savage Island really comes down to the most primitive aspect of that story. The only thing I was a bit confused with was in the film was the intercutting of the girl putting a voodoo curse on Manuel. It almost seemed like Billy Zane became her agent for revenge, and I think that the film could have dropped that element from the movie. They could have dropped that whole voodoo aspect of the film, and it would have worked fine. But to be honest, I kind of like the mystical element to the film. Now, I don't have to recommend 3 to you guys. Just with this awesome cover here of Kelly Brook, I think this is a really cool front cover, and of course the words Kelly Brook nude and sex scene. You're probably already alt-tabbing and searching on the net for this film.
Thanks for watching. If you like what you see, please hit the subscribe button. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. Check out our podcast at www.podmeifyoucan.com.